What's going on? Matt Savoca here from Awesemo.com, bringing you the Pro Bowl edition of the FanDuel Contenders video. We are back this Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern at Las Vegas' Allegiant Stadium for the best of the AFC versus the best of the NFC. The NFC is favored here in a 99-point total game. But before we get into all the analysis here for the Pro Bowl, just want to remind you guys, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. And if you could give me, Matt Savoca, a follow on Twitter at Draftaholic, that would be much appreciated as well. We'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, FanUp. FanUp is offering all sorts of contests for the Super Bowl and the NBA this week. Use promo code Awesemo when you sign up to get a $25 free account bonus in your account for betting and 2,000 bonus points, which is the equivalent of $20 to bet on the platform. No deposit required. Get started by clicking the link in the video description below and download the FanUp app today. Okay, guys, on the screen here, you see my 10 through 6 of my top plays in the Pro Bowl. And really the toughest part here is the usage rates, right? It's almost like the preseason where players mix in and out, but we have no beat writers to tell us who is going to get more snaps than the other. So we just got to use some positional trends here. At number 10, Kyler Murray. He has a pretty decent ceiling, but we have seen running quarterbacks really take it easy in the rushing department in the Pro Bowl. So I don't have a lot of rushing ceiling hopes for Murray here. He's in the optimal lineup 28% of the time. Then it's Deontay Johnson on the AFC side. I think he might get squeezed out of a bunch of targets. He was a target monster in Pittsburgh this year, but when you got superstars like Diggs and Hill, he might get overshadowed in this game. Still, he's in the optimal lineup 30% of the time. I much prefer Justin Jefferson, a 33% chance of being in the optimal lineup for Jefferson, and he's got his buddy Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, throwing the football at least part of the time for the NFC. Then at number 7 and 6, we've got two superstars, one in the AFC at Patrick Mahomes, one in the NFC with the do-it-all weapon for the San Francisco 49ers, Deebo Samuel. They both have a 34% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Obviously, Mahomes has the higher floor here, but Samuel, who could easily lead the entire league here, both teams, in touches because of his rushing upside and receiving upside, he probably sneaks in as the better tournament play. He's an optimal MVP play in nearly 7% of our simulations. None of those fantastic players crack the top 5, though. Who do? Let's watch and find out. At number 5, Kirk Cousins sneaking in just ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Deebo Samuel at 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup. And really, this is about median projection compared to salary-based expectations. A nearly $3,000 salary discount from Patrick Mahomes to Kirk Cousins here on the other side. And they have a median projection that is less than half a point away from each other. Now, the ceiling possibilities, they're pretty low for Kirk Cousins. Just 7% of our simulations show Kirk Cousins having over 25 fantasy points. I think that's kind of rare for a quarterback in any Pro Bowl situation. But if we get 15 fantasy points, he is most likely going to pay off here at that $11,500 salary. I'm going to have more Cousins at the flex spot than the MVP spot. But number 5, not bad for the Minnesota Vikings quarterback this week. At number 4, Travis Kelce. And what we've seen with tight ends in the recent past in the Pro Bowl is because there are simply less of them compared to the wide receivers, they play more snaps than their wide receiver counterparts. And yes, he's sharing the field with a superstar in Mark Andrews this week, but Travis Kelce also going to be playing with his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, and his teammate at the wideout position, Tyreek Hill. Kelce was fantastic as usual this season. Number 1 in the NFL in routes run, number 2 in targets, number 2 in receiving yards, number 1 in total touchdowns, and number 2 in fantasy points per game at his position. So in this game where plenty of points are expected to be scoring, we're just following the volume here. He's an optimal MVP in 8% of our simulations. I'll be above the field on that. And in a third of our sims, he is an optimal flex player at just $9,500 in salary. Travis Kelce, number 4 in the optimal lineup, 41% of the time. At number 3, Stefon Diggs. And Stefon Diggs didn't have quite as dominant a season as he did a year ago, but we're still talking about top 5 in the NFL in targets, number 2 in red zone targets, number 7 in total TDs at the wide receiver position. So even with the historically great years from players like Cooper Kupp, we still have Stefon Diggs sitting there at 9th in fantasy points per game and is a player on the outside who can absolutely tear up this one-game slate with quarterbacks like Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball. A $10,000 salary is pretty good. I like his value a little bit better on other platforms, but just comparing median projection to salary-based expectations puts Stefon Diggs firmly in the you can play him category. In 36% of our simulations, unfortunately, he's scoring less than 10 fantasy points. As we mentioned, wide receivers tend to squeeze each other out of overall touches, but there is nearly a 10% chance that he scores over 25 in this game and a solid 11% chance that he will be the optimal MVP. I'm going to be playing him there in the tournaments where I do include him in my lineups, but I'm excited to see that over a third of our simulations do include him as a flex play. Stefon Diggs in the optimal lineup 45% of the time. At number 2, tight end Mark Andrews for the Baltimore Ravens, of course, playing for the AFC. A $10,500 salary makes him slightly more expensive than Travis Kelce here on this platform, but deservedly so. He was number 1 in the NFL amongst tight ends in targets, number 1 in air yards share, deep targets, red zone targets, targets per snap, receiving yards, completed air yards, and fantasy points per game. Just a ridiculous season from a fantastic player. And just because there's only 2 tight ends really here on the field, Andrews and Kelce are going to get plenty of playing time, even possibly on the field together here. Andrews is scoring 25 fantasy points in over 8% of our simulations, and in nearly 10% of our simulations, he is the optimal MVP play here. A median projection of 12.1 is unignorably good. He had a great 2020 Pro Bowl 2 seasons ago, so I think he comes out, has a strong game here. He slides in just ahead of Stefon Diggs in the optimal lineup 48% of the time. Now, before I reveal my final play, my number 1 play on FanDuel for this Pro Bowl slate, just want to remind you guys, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. And if you could give me, Matt Savoca, a follow on Twitter at Draftaholic, that would be much appreciated as well. Also want to give one more shout out to our presenting sponsor, FanUp. Use promo code Awesemo to get $25 free in your account for contests and 2,000 bonus points, which is the equivalent of $20 to bet. No deposit required. They've got contests for the NBA and the Super Bowl. Get started by clicking that link in the video description below and get started with the FanUp app today. Okay, guys, let's dig into my number 1 player on FanDuel for this Pro Bowl slate. At number 1, it's Tyreek Hill. And yeah, you know the Chiefs would rather be preparing for a game next Sunday, and Tyreek Hill didn't have as good a season as some other wide receivers, even ones playing in this game, but Hill has a ceiling projection that is really different than all other skill players here. We've told you we want to lean on passing games here. There's way more passing than running, and despite wide receivers squeezing each other out of touches sometimes, the biggest games we've seen in the recent past have actually come from the wide receiver position. So playing with his teammate Patrick Mahomes, playing with young emerging superstars like Justin Herbert at the quarterback position, that's not going to slow Hill down compared to his usually high ceiling when he plays for the Chiefs. Yes, in 30% of our simulations, he's scoring less than 10 fantasy points, but in nearly 24% of our sims, he's scoring over 25 fantasy points. A median projection of 14 fantasy points, that'll do it when you have only a $12,000 salary here. That is not too much. Tyreek Hill comes in at number 1 in 52% of our optimal lineups. And that is going to do it for the Pro Bowl edition of the FanDuel Contenders video. If you're looking for the DraftKings version of this video, it's around here somewhere. Go ahead and look for it on the channel. We will be back all next week with all the content you could possibly want about Super Bowl 56. We're already getting so excited and prepared for all the content here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Until then, I'm Matt Savoca from Awesemo.com. We'll see you guys next time.